not coming to every shiur, and I said, wow, I've come the whole time.
What was it?
2 weeks ago you reprimanded me that I don't come to every shiur.
I
come the whole time, and then the next week I didn't make it.
I reprimanded. Oh, I'm surprised at myself I reprimanded. Anyway, I suppose every reminder is a form of a reprimand, I guess. Right, so today is Ayin Beis, Ayin Beis, Menachemov, Toshin Samtes, and the shiur is in Emshech Tov Ayin Beis, Chelik Aleph, Maimah Dibur Maskul Wayet Le Omein, Chag HaShavuos, Tov Reish Ayin Daled, Omud, Tov Samach Bob, and Tov Samach Zayin. So we began with the biur Beneged to Toihu V'Tikun. How they are the two shemas, the two tzirufei shemas of the Shem Havaya, Ma Uban. And we saw that the movement was a movement klali, that the whole marke Ma is a yin from Bittel, V'Gilui Elakus, Gilui Hamoya. The Ilban is the way that the Elakus is mamtzi mimeno, inim which is saying magish makoira k'moy ma, and it's a inim from Yerida into eventually Yeshua Matthias. And so we saw that that's the difference between Toya V'Tikun, and the Inyan of Toya we saw was the Inyan of Ban, and therefore the Sfilis in Toya are called Malachim, Malkin, the Zayin Malkin, the Toihu, because the Nakuda of Malchus we saw was Teikef HaYeshes. So we'll see as we go along more delicate interpretation, but Derech Proteus and biur, what do we mean by the fact that Malchus is Yeshes? Because we'll see that there are different we find him in different suge or different ways that Malchus can express itself in the form of Yeshes, and yet not necessarily be the union of Yeshes the way we understand it as a negative union. However, what we mean by Yeshes is the union of Teikef Habitui, in other words, that a thing which expresses itself b'chol ha-Teikef, and what you might call an insistence on the takeoff of its own being. That's the Inyan of Malchus. So Kumuvan Bapashtas, that a king can't be just a little, how do you call it, nobody. He's not able to be a little Gornish the king, he has to be the takeoff Matthias, in that all others are Bateli Milo, and Sorim Mishpat, with all Inyan we find Beneged to Amela. And that's what we, the Kavanah, that we say that the Midas, or the Inyonim, the Spheres, the Toyu in our even of Malach, Malkin, Malchus, the Kavanah is to say two Inyonim. The one is that we, at the beginning of Tov Samach Zayin, that they weren't able to be nice and mocking to another midah. They weren't able to sort of find in themselves an ability to give place to something else. But uid, and even more than that, shaloi hoyu yechelim or loy yochel lisbeo klal es midas hakavura. But for now, it's much more that it's two svaras or two inyonim. That if I say that something just has no place by me, then it's not necessarily that I couldn't be savored at club. It's just that it doesn't fit my what you might call my whole seder of chashivas and kiruv elai klal. It's just over nechshav the klub. There's no place by me whatsoever, and therefore I don't give it any place. In teifus, as you might say, shum mokim etzli. I would say, and that's mitzad choiser ha-ayachas v'choiser chashivas. and albeit mitzad the what you might call the chashivas of the mitzvahs of the mevatel. But if you say Einam Yochel Yochelim Seivo, I can't say that. If I say that the Pliny is not able to be Seivo in Pliny, then that means that it's mamish mafrieloi, and Lord mafrieloi, but he's managid to it by him that he wants to take it off the table. He wants to be shadel at Metzia. Because if you say he will managid lazes, also yes, a certain moderation. But if you say Eina Yochel Lisboil, if you can't be saved or something, then you're basically chofetz b'bitula. If you say can't be saved, then you want it to be oitz. However, we're going to find in Tuyu both in Yonim of the Ika is that it's going to be an azar even of not being giving mokim to another Indian, which will lead and evolve it being not saved the other Indian. Because maybe we can imagine a situation where you mightn't be nice and mokim to dvarim achedim, but not necessarily that you would be not saved them. Yeah. Over here, we're developing a picture or a view whereby the not giving mokim to something is going to lead and bring to be mamish not nisbal by the Eina Neisa mokim. We're going to see that that's a very delicate difference, and so hidden in that sentence is really the whole basis from what we're going to begin the biur in Toyo. V'lochein behechreach, says it over, shenishbara benistalke midas. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, kumoi kasher. I'm sorry. Kumoi kasher nimshach sfiras achesed loinos no mokim klau lemidas agvura v'oid. And more than that, shloya yochel lisboil klau es midas agvura. Tu inyan v'lochein behechreach shenishbaro v'nistalke midas achesed bichdei shiyeh midas agvura. In other words, the vibal that one is not saved the other cloud, and that the loy nasinas mokim is even shall built in this bow. If I want to, as it were, have both of them together, how do you call it? I want to, as you might say, make the town big enough for both of them, then it's not possible. And therefore, to a certain extent, Midas Agura, if you said, listen here, this is we're going to bring you into the picture now, Midas Agura, then Midas Agura will say, fine, but if I come into the picture, then it's only me. It was hard to, there'll also be Midas HaChesed. Eini Seivel Midas HaChesed. And remember, if you want Gura, B'teich Hatmuna, I'm sorry, you're going to have to take away and be Mavatal Midas HaChesed. And that's the pshat, that the Eina Neisen Mokim Be'ika is built around Ayin of Eino Seiva. And therefore said the Rebbe, if I want to bring in the Inyan of Gura, then there must be Nishbara v'nistalka midas ha'chesed. Now, as we go along, we're going to have to be further doirish in this whole inner nishbara. For what's nishbara? There's two expressions, nishbara v'nistalka. So you can say nistalka fits into the pattern we just described. Yeah, nistalka means that Gvul says, listen here, if you want to bring me in, you've got to take that away. I can't. Eini Seivel Inyan Chesed. Masalkim means to take away its material. But why would we say Nishbara? What's it the Indian? Why would we say that the Nakuda of not being Seivel also involves the breakage of the other entity? Because if I say, yeah, ain't a seivel, I can't put up with it. I can't just, vertrogen, as they say in Yiddish, please remove that out of the way. Or was it the Russian Nishbura? So that we'll have to see also as we go along. We're going to have to be very careful, like all Vinyonim, that there's a very delicate couple of messages are hidden here in what looks to be Musogim Klolim of it. Zelovadyuka. Edafa, says the Rebbe, V'chein, Midas HaGvura, Legavi Midas HaTiferes. Yeah, that Midas HaGvura is going to have to move and be broken if Midas HaTiferes is going to come into the picture. What if he said, is that even in Tohu there was Midas HaTiferes. In other words, that even though Tiferes is l'choira a Matthias, which comes mitzad discolorless. And if I'm saying that one midah demands that the other midah be broken and removed, then how do you get to Tiferes? In Ayin Beis in Igeros HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe Masber, the whole new Matthias of Tiferes, albeit comes about from a building together of Chesed and Gvura together, albeit Tiferes is another Matthias. Kamur in Lakota Ter, Barik in Pasha Kadeshim, the Alter Rebbe dort Masber. Aber auch upon Imitainium from Yiskalus or Yichud, Shnei Inyonim. And therefore we have to say this is also a Dvar Chidesh that the Rebbe mentions here the Inyan from Tiferes. No, it's a Dvar Chidesh, but it's a Had Goshem. We have to say that even in Tohu there was a certain one-time round, this colorless. And even though we're using here expressions which imply the absolute, Chila Gvura is saying that if you want me to move in, then I'm sorry, he's got to go. Or you want to bring now into Tiferes, and so he says, well, this one you got right now has got to go. And nonetheless, we have to say that the Ikar in is colorless of Tikkun versus 2 is not the etzem minyan that there can be the building of certain midas together in order to reach a toikuf of another midah. No, the whole inyan is colorless. The immediate inyan is colorless. We're going to see also as we go along, and it's also much in the famous Maimon from the Alter Rebbe in the Likutei Torah of Heiniv. But the Emes of Tikkun and the music of his colorless is not just noise and mokim was there, but a mikablim semis. The Emes of Tikkun is not just that they allow one another to be, or the mekabel one from the other. In other words, that the mekabel are a pnimias and a shleimas one from the other, ad kedei kach, that one eventually reaches a conclusion that bli Matthias Hasheni ain't loy Matthias. He doesn't have a Matthias, not the Matthias of the Sheni. In other words, the mamish mashlimim, the tachus hashlim is there. That wasn't it too. Das nicht gewesen. Although there could be what you might call a certain stalris, a certain what you might call moving together of two midas in a way that they could produce another Indian, but that was here too. In other words, it's mavur in certain Sifrei Kabbalah that in Toyu there was what you might call colorless one time, as you might say, one time round. Called Klulim Zemizeh Pam Achas or Pam Kilu Sivu Vechot. Yilu Be'tikun, it's Harba Yezim is there, and there's different possibilities and shittas. Or Ifanim, in Toyu would take it up from Esami Esser, until it reaches the Univan. It depends on the Indian, Mea Meduba, or Be'eze Gilui, Milmaila, Be'eze, Naila is Nimshach. Alidei the Suga is colorless Amaduva. And therefore, says the Rebbe, there was a Tiferes. But nonetheless, the Tiferes was also, even only the necessity of like the Stauvers, the two inyonis produce a midah, and once that midah was there, Yeah, it said, if you want to bring me in, then I'm sorry, you can't have the other, but that's not just that the other was bottled by him. So we're going to see as we go on, the other's bottled. On the contrary, give it let it be. I mean, if it's bottled, there's a little valbot chaklau. Mazam afreya. Lo yisayva. Listen to the Kudah. The meaning is that the raiminess and the takev of the yeshes that there was into you was a chazayim that lo yisayva as Hashem. V'yal kain nema bohem yomos. I'm sorry, vayomos. Yeah, melech ploini. Ve'achar kach vayim loy ploin. First of all, it's written vayim loy ploin. Then it's written vayomos. He had to die, and then vayim loy ploini after him. Mishum de be'shar shemolach zeh loy hoya be'efshar sheyim loy Hashem. It wasn't just shayah. V'yalkein ein malchus noigas b'chaverato. Afira kimole nimo. It ever one emissary Indian of Malchus, would be what you might call the taker for the yeshus of Malchus, can't possibly allow another Malchus. One Malchus has to stop and then starts another Malchus. And I say this in the Seder of King. And the Gemara learns that in Kamar, this is a Loshen, in Kamar Mekemus in Shas. But the first place where it occurs is
this is the middle of Tikkun.
That's the emphasis that it's even a middle in Tikkun. Yeah. Zenachon, because we're talking about kings how they were Malchei Yisrael. So we have to say that that's an Indian affair in Tikkun. Zenachon. But later we'll see that the Indian from Malchus, and that's what I'm pointing out here, is that the difference is very delicate in the form of the Teich of Hayeshes. That there's going to be a Malchus in Kedusha and in Tikkun of the Teich of the Yeshes is going to be by von Zug Acher, but even though ein Malchus Neges Bechavata, of Afu Fikein the Teitzers will be different. Not in an even von Shvira Chalila. So there was the ein Malchus Neges Bechavata, Afila, Kemole Nima. Now where do we learn that from? There's a Gemara, what the Gemara says, by Shmuel mit Shaul. It's interesting, Shaul was the first emes of Melech per se, he was the first king per se. The one who was Melech Kodim was there was Shmuel, even though Shmuel was only a Sheifet, a Novi, when he wasn't Mamish a Melech, but nonetheless, the Gemara says that for all intents and purposes, the koyach that Shmuel had over Yidden was that of a melech. It was well known. He was how do you call it, Noyeg Malchusi Baromo, Shmuel, very much so. He was sent to. He was told by the Eresh that he has to be Moshe Shaul. He saw Shaul. Shaul came looking for him because of the Asinus that his father lost the donkeys, and so Shaul went looking for the donkey. And they said there's a royer, how do you call it, a person that he's like, and so he was told to go looking for Shmuel, and that's what Shmuel said to him, Manoiche HaRoyer. So the Gemara says that that was a little bit too much. But anyway, whatever, he found him. And then James said to Shmuel, this is him. This person has come to ask you. He's going to be the Nogid al Shifta Yisrael. He's going to be the king. So then they go a little bit just before they actually met Shmuel. That's right. So they asked these women, where's the royer? Where do we meet him? Where do we find him? So these women made a whole big long arichas, and they said, that he comes to eat on the bama, he sits at the top and he eats, but nobody can make a bracha on the zevach until he comes, and then he makes a bracha on the zevach, and then everybody eats, and a whole big arichas, a sipur, just to say that he's in town. So the Gemara asks him brachas, Why does the Nach have to tell me that they said this and they said that, they said something else? Could this be written? They asked where Shmuel, they went up to meet him. So the Gemara says, Malamit she'ein malchus neigas pechavata afilum kemolei ima, that since Shmuel was about to give over his malchus to Shaul, then Vice says that he still had a few extra minutes of his malchus to go, and these women sort of filled it in by being married and their lotion, telling a hin and a her, that sort of filled in the last few minutes. And there's not to come out of that. There was a few more minutes of Shmuel's malchus was still left. They had to hear this whole riches from the Weibelach, kedei to listen that if you go up into the town, you'll find Shmuel. Well, they stayed in the Gemara. Emma, Lefisha, come to this. Yeah, that each malchus comes up to a certain point and then stop, and then starts a new malchus. What, as rightfully pointed out, we're only using that for the time being, but again to the etzem inyan, the takeoff hayeshes that there is in malucha, not to the difference between that inyan and malucha. It's going to be in tikkun. We'll see. That's totally in certain sforas dakis b'yesa. V'yal came, says the Rebbe. Ein malchus neges b'chad v'hemda. The mishum inyan hayeshes. Yeah, now, once again, we're only using the word yes at the moment without a tremendous amount of moral bio. What to say that a king has to be and is a koyach of yeshes. Shezeh inyan amlucha. Yeah, the tuich of his being and of the expression of his being are actually inyan of malucha. Otherwise, he's not a melech, as we pointed out before. It can't be two. Kann sein beide zusammen. And that's the whole famous Sikha. The Rebbe was married in the famous Sikha, that how come David the Melech was Mamlik Shlomo, and then he continued being the Melech for a short while, and Shlomo was ordered the Melech. You can't have wie is ook een malchus neges bechavata, afiluk moranima. There's also another lotion. That ein shnei malachim, mishtamshim bekesa echel, but I can't Aricha said the Rebbe's got this whole big beer that was a hero show, and that really Malchus Shlomo began from that moment. But nonetheless, David was still a whole big Aricha saying, I can't pilfer for no, a very famous Sikha. Because you can't have it. You can't have two kings. You can't have the Malchus of kings being neige one and the other. When one finishes, the other one starts. You might say, well, maybe David the Melech stopped from that moment. We'll see. He wasn't the king anymore. The king. But we see that he still continued to give certain heroes David. And gesagt, gewisse Unionen, Terem Vishtal Kusei. Erefa, it follows Lefisha. Ukenire beteva b'nei Yodam. Kenire beteva b'nei Yodam achashuvim. So, to bring a raya, the tuich of hayeshes, that's the inyan malucha, prevents, is by etzem moving, mavdil bein zeh lezeh. It doesn't cause a inyan of achtes at all. This is a dover, I had to call a musa haske or derech hagav. Kenira b'teva b'nei Adam achashurim, shekol echad יש ודובר בפני עצמי בגדולה וחשיבות ביוסה, or each one of them is a dover with a chashivas b'yois, with a very special chashivas, and it could be as amatzis that they are taken, very important. Each one with a remarkable chashivas. Lo yuchol lovei lidei chibur, ve'achtes im zulos agodol v'achoshu. He's not able to come lidei chibur ve'achtes im zulosei agodol v'achoshu. In other words, both of them are agodol v'achoshu, and it's not that the other guy is not agodol v'achoshu. Now, davke mishumze, davke because we recognize that both of them are agodol v'achoshu, and they recognize also, they're aware of the fact that the other guy is agodol v'achoshu. Therefore, they're not able to come lidei chibur ve'achtes im zulosei agodol v'achoshu. In other words, notice the Lashon here, that they can't come lidei chibur. And immediately you get chibur, then you can get even a musik from actors. But if you don't have chibur, then there's no way you're going to get to actors. Chibur means that they can join together in a certain, what you might call, mishutefes pu'ula, or how do you call it, cooperation, one with the other. And that's ulai. We can suggest that that's derech ulai. Masha Marumas in Tanya, in Ayin Beis, the Alter, he sort of says several lashonas which indicate different daragas in the inyan of the sachtas of Yidden. And he says, first of all, he brings the lashon of the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Kula Matimois. So it's a lashon in Shir Hashirim, Kula Matimois, and then he says, Va'av echad lekolona, mitzad zeh, Kulam achim mamish, Racha gufim mecholokim. It's like almost three different lashonas. And so the whole inyan at Kula Matimois, that's a beginning. And Kula Matimas is like, these dovetail carpenter and things that are dovetail, that they sort of fit into one another. In other words, they're able to be mishchaber and they join one with the other, but each one has its own milah. Or they join together. Well, then there's hope that eventually they'll be joined an even further inyan, that they can be mishkaled and even further inyan that avech or the kolona. And then there's a even further inyan that racha gufim mechol, it's mamish oisa hanishom, or oisa ha'inyan mamish, and it's only the gufim mishkalim. If you have, first of all, kula matimis, then you can hope you're going to reach the rest. And where there's a chibur, then it can be active. Now it's interesting that Davki in this week, and Davki a night or two before to be off, we just have to mention that, just that lashon chibur v'actus, because the Rebbe in the drushim of to be off, yes, Rabban Gamliel, we stated in the mission, Rabban Gamliel Oimer, something Rabban Gamliel is out as well, Shimon Gamliel. It's lo hoy yom tevim l'Yisrael, kechamish also be'or, k'yom ha'kippurim, and he brings that b'nois Yerushalayim, hoy yoitzes v'choylus b'kromim, and the Rebbe brings that's even for actus Yisrael. And there's certain Maimonides from the Rebbe of that whole inyan, where he talks about even for actors. As much, like we said, he goes from one dag l'mayla mi'ah Asheni, and he says that the inyan is a kulam metzias achas peshuta man. Metzias achas peshuta man. As he does that. I leave that for your gentlemen, for your suitable response, but over. Ayin Beis, אנחנו, בעניין זה, אבל על כל פנים, שזה Rebbe that you can have chibur, then you'll have actors. But if you can't have chibur, I'm sorry, he's a choshav, I've been to choiv, my chibur, I can't join with him, I'm sorry. Ukemoi beis malachim, oi beis sorim, gedoilim. In other words, emes sorim, kemoi shahema gedoilim be'etzem be'yoser. They're really the gedoilim be'etzem in a varied way. How they could be yoser, the tacha be'emes anoshim gedoilim. Lo yuchlu lischaber or lishached. Notice, if this is chaber, then you'll get to actors. Lefi, shekol echad teifes mokim be'atzmai. Each one of them is teifes mokim be'atzmai. Hu yesh godel be'atzmai. Look at this. The kula kalei mamish chashivi coming. In other words, it's all these other, guys, all the other people, they have absolutely no matzias. Kula kalei chashivi. Ve'ena noisen mokim klal zulotza. Doesn't give place And here we're going to see later, a few lines later down, we're going to ask a kasha, why do those two svaras link together? If we're going to say, we'll see, but we won't bother ourselves too much with the kasha right now. But it's interesting that the Rebbe says that there are two things. First of all, the other person is kiloi chashiva, and absolutely no matzias like having him whatsoever. The nakuda is that yesh b'zeh tzedek. I mean, if you take the idiom mamish be'etzem, how do you call it, analysis, and the etzem nituach ha'inyan le'emes, ein lechanam ishtache b'yoysa dike chashivas dike. Ishtache chashiv b'yoysa. Like Yabim, andere Menschen tellen. En dan geven ze why in the yochel is this boy. It's a very fascinating hemshik of the lashon. Yeah, Eden is a modern cloud. Well, yochel is boy cloud. Lo Yisbel is much stronger. Lo Yisbel. Nemen we weg van daar. Het kule collega Shive. I get to say, well, these guys, sorry, they just don't have any place for me. They're not my Bible me. Like I heard once the story with I told you guys, Rogachover once a lot of Bochum was stopping to hear what he had to say. Bochum from the back. So the Gabbai called out and he said, "Stop nicht da." He said, "Do nicht da Karebe." He said, "Stop nicht." Do nicht da Karebe. The Rogachover was that he was going to give her a pill. So the Rogachover smiled and he looked at him and he said, "As long as they stop it." He said, let them stop. He said, "What's he called? Read the Saivi Nista." He said, "Well, I'm going to talk. It's anyway Nista." The Rebbe says Nista. He said, the Rebbe says Nista. He said, "Well, I'm going to be talking about by saying Nista." What did he say? You wanted me, you asked me, so I'm going to talk about it. Finish better. For what we hear about the Rogachover, it's kilo, it's mativ, the echomim the nusa. Al chopanim, Elafisa komt thuis, that he's taking, to a certain extent he's right, that these people have no chashivas. Albeit says, lo yuchel lisbel klau ezros. That's a union which is going to be doirishpia, for Wushita. Is a siman that deep inside the gedula, epicito, how do you call it? There's an old saying, something in deep inside the gedula is like the boy. And therefore, they're not. And they must have gedula also knows a lot of people not be'erach. Moshe Rabbeinu knew everybody was low be'erach. Became pink faket. Moshe Rabbeinu was even though he knew everybody was
God of Emes.
Huh?
Was God of Emes.
Yeah, but it's like an akuda. Yeah, it's like an akuda in the middle. Yeah. It's like Mendel Vitebsky used to say about himself that he used to write, he used to sign himself a shofel b'emes. And that's what he used to write, a shofel b'emes. So it's a sign of seine Chassidim. You're not so, it was the nice thing. And see, he saw it, he used to also write, he wrote up some letter, a shofel b'emes. So, yeah, so some of these other people saw this and they said that's Shofar B'Emes. So Rav Mendel, they called him in. Rav Mendel was Taki Shofar, but he was a tremendous, honor. What do you write the Shofar B'Emes? So he said, "Well, Rabbi, I see that you do it." So Rav Mendel said, "Give achting." He said, "Be careful." He says, "You've been a Shofar B'Emes." He says, "Be careful." He said, "Could be that you're B'Emes a shofar." אין לך למה, זה עזב מסוד קדע. אבל, anyway, says the Rebbe, אבל בני אדם הקטנים, people who are בערך, meaning, אין לך למה, they're ממש קטנים. כל שהם הקטנים בעצמם, they were moving closer to the נקודה. they are קטנים בעצמם, יסר יוכלו לשחבר ולשחת יחד. לחבר ולשחת. In other words, fabulous, because here the lesson is that they're ketanim, but they're also ketanim yatzmo. They're very good that they are very much ketanim. And that's a big nesoya. That the more you move into godless, it's harder to realize that you're talking a God, which you have good reasons to always to be a kotel. Over ketanim are much more able to be aware of it. Lefi shekol echad ein tefes mokeim v'yesh klal b'atzmo. He's not tefes mokeim, and he doesn't have any. He's not a yesh klal b'atzmo. Hari hu neisen mokeim luzulosei. He gives a place to the other person. Ubekal unichna ubotel liskolel im zulase. Im shu hifuchei. Even though he might be the very opposite of that person when it comes to what you might call midas and character and all sorts of his expression. He's biduk hafuk from the Tvaita. Avavu became. Now notice the expression. All these terms are going to later help us to understand what is be'emes to have dealt. What's the be'emes to chilek? The Rebbe says here that since that he's not teifes mokim, he's able to be nice and mokim l'zulosei. That's one thing. And then he said ubekal unichna ubotel l'skololim zulosei shuhui. Even though he's mamish hipok, zulosei, he can be very good. Notice that there's two things there. First of all, he's nice and mocking. He finds a place for the other guy. But it's easy for him to be nichna ubotel. In other words, that if you really want to join up with the Tvaita, then you've got to be nichna ubotel. In other words, you've got to understand how legabi that Tvaita there's inyonim in you which make you absolutely batil, and therefore you give yourself away. You're talking nichna be'emes. In other words, that the whole community sin van achters, like we saw earlier, depended on a hargosha. Without the Tzveita, without the Druta, the Velta, I don't have any shlemus, I don't have any being. I don't really have the right way to exist if I don't have everybody else. Now remember, there's two inyonim. There's nichna, that you become this, and then you become botel. In other words, you become surrendered, as you might say, given away, and then you become botel altogether, and then you're l'shkal limzo, also, and you don't even worry that he's mamash a different character to you altogether. You see how he and you together need one other better. Ukemoi beis aniyim shveilim betivom v'nimuchei ruach. He said two aniyim what they're shveilim betivom, but they're also nimuchei ruach. Achapi shehein beis hafochim betivom. It could be that two completely different people. This is how do you call it? A Gvura dimension. This is a chesvas. Another talk mentioned altogether. Nonetheless, says the Rebbe, they will be yishabru v'yahavu ze ad ze levato atzmoi kol echad mipnei chaver. Each one of them will be bottled and mevatel himself l'gavida the Tveit. Now here's another mila. Up to now we're talking about bnei Adam ktanim. Now we're saying aniyim. So what's it the mila of an oni? Wasn't the mila of an oni? It's brought down in Siddur that an oni doesn't need any isboninus his klal to know his shiftless. He doesn't have to think klal about ein shiftless. He just lives with his shiftless. He knows that he has absolutely kilo, normative. Yeah. And therefore said the Rebbe, Ayin Beis anim betivo. They're shveli more betivo. And it was not that they had to be misbeinen in their shiftless, and they had to come to realize their shiftless on there. No, Oni is be'etzem tivoi. He's a shofel. And therefore said the Rebbe, nemuche ruach. They completely, how do you call it? Nemuche. They're used people treading on them. And therefore, they have no problem with treading on them, or treading on themselves. Afu Ayin Beis, afochim betivom, yishchabru v'yahavu zeh ezeh, levat latzmi korech b'nei chaverai. Melas apele, we have to say that's moise of another inyan like what we're talking about before. Where a person came to his realization that he's a koton, and it's a mile that he have to do with the Tveita, that could be true. Certainly inyanim in is one. And maybe it could be that leish minoitim, that's necklash, or it's nishtane, lo tamid boy to he's up with the zolben, much of ruach. Oh, but where he's on, he's on is this beteva. On is a tzibroch and a mensch be'etzem, and he's a normal charuach. He would never lift up his, he would never have any problem. And if he noticed, he's not only he's chaber, but he even loves the other guy. We didn't say that before. That he's yehav at Hasheni, that we didn't use yet. Here we see the lashon avo. And when the avo is a infa, how do you call take of argosha and gishmak in Yeremis Matthias. You notice how all these illustrations and each expression takes us a little bit closer to a deeper mashkona. Now he says, Ayin Beis nirdofim. Twee mention what they're fleeing from danger. How do you call it? They're fleeing for lives. A nirdof is somebody that, they're after him. And they're both of them fleeing. She'oyevim says, here we don't even say that the B'teilim and the Misachtim, they just melchatchila love one day the other. They know their whole existence doesn't exist anymore. Technically speaking, they don't know their chances, as you might call it, living are dependent purely on whether they're going to get away. Neil Duffy, or sitting in jail, or sitting in POW, what do you call prisoner of war, stuff like. They know that that their whole materials is mushla. Therefore, they have malachatchila uyevim zeh mipnei abitl v'hachnoa. There's this tremendous bitl. Kilo, they realize just how much they don't have any life anymore. And that draws them together with Derech Mamela. Now here it's interesting that the word bittul comes before the Achnoah. And when we took Aniyim, he said nikna ubota. And here he says, bottle bittul v'Achnoah. In other words, that the ikke here is the bittul. And I must say that maybe we could give b'derech halotza. B'derech halotza, we could give a dugma. I don't know if you ever remember when you're a kid, and you come to school late, but not just, you missed on a minute or something, but your mom is late. I remember there's a tremendous pachad in the kid. It's late, we get up to face the headmaster. Called in the headmaster's office, and who knows what schreckliche Gezeires, and the kid is mamish to brought. But if you find another, you meet up with another kid that he's in the same matter. Oh, this is they take mamish. It could be that they were the worst enemies. That's good. Could be there was some give off and stay nine up the under, and ich weiß mit was. Yeah. They're in that matter, that all of a sudden they become two loving buddies, They say, well, I'll support you and I'll look after you, don't worry, you support me and I'll support you and I'll praise you and I'll help you and I'll try to point out them and that. And so they both, walk with a new sort of hope and a new take him into the headmaster. You ever notice it? I remember seeing there was a kid, that he come late. If you had somebody else, all of a sudden the Av and the Chibur that there was between us, this was Mavatal, all in your honor might have existed. No, it's the thing, he was your enemy or anything like that didn't exist. I don't know what the Rebbe mean. The Rebbe says that the Etzem Inyan, which is Mavatal, your whole Metzias, all that causes a Av, a Mamela, a Chibur in the Beatles even before the Ach no. Vadugma Mise. Yeah, Beshvira is the Tehu. In other words, what you might say, the dogma that we began with, but the Kashuvim B'Yesa, not the Anim. The Anim that's going to come later.
It seems like, it's not so obvious that Anim automatically mitchavim. The same thing by people who are in Metzav.
It's not obvious?
Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes...
Two people were mamish fleeing for their lives.
We see in Yerushalayim,
in
the middle of the Chorban, the Yidden were fighting each other.
Yeah, we see the different years. You understand? We see, we live mamish in that matzav right now. Unfortunately, this Tisha B'Av was mamish as ever. I don't like to say it to people, but see, the tzara is that what happens is that there's certain groups of people that they don't realize that they're nirdofim. They don't realize that the matzav is ad krikar. Therefore, they have also all sorts of shittas and all sorts of inyanim and all sorts of things. If we do that, then we'll just be okay. They don't really understand advifum is nirdofim. Nirdofim means when never Rachmanin Kla, the axe is already fallen, and there's you manage to get out, and then you know good that you flee. Of the Koli that the axe didn't fall, there's some people say, no, what's that? You know, people walking around and they say, who cut around?
But Mendel said that in prison.
Oh, but can you understand what I'm trying to say? Nirdofim means that when the axes Rahman and Kla already fallen and they're empty.
but Mendel said in prison there were people who fought over the food. But Mendel said in prison under the Bolsheviks there were people who would fight over the food and even kill each other, hurt each other.
My dear boy, there's an old saying in Yiddish, so kein Mann ist geprüft werden. You know what that means? Here we're talking about two nirdofim. But, it could be that they got food in their bags, it could be they got weapons, or, they're being chased by somebody greater than them. But people in the situation remember what this described. It was, they were dying of starvation. That's not a marshal for anything. This is just, that's the end of all possibilities. One end. I mean, we should never know. Imam says that, every end has got a certain, I mean, your question is not completely ruled out. I'm not completely. Therefore, what I did was to try and move it a shloud further. That nirdofim is people that the axe has already fallen, and they got away, and nonetheless, it's very likely that they're being chased. That's an good. And unfortunately, there's so many days and so many meshugin goyim. And so many just absolute Zaydim Rahmanim that are nimta in the picture here. That just they don't think. They think, Rebbe says the Rebbe, it's the dogma mizeh v'sfiras dateyu, the mitzad tuike v'yeshes v'aisnases v'arimim es yisero. Now we're going to see there's reimamas and there's reimamas yisero. Shoya b'chol sfira ad shasfira zulosa lo yoteifes mokim klal. Yesh noisen la mokim gamkein. Now, this is only the beginning. This is only the first statement. In other words, that the Sfiras in two days Nasas never gave any mokim. We didn't reach the Seivel part of it. We're leading into the Nimshal. So there was the Rebbe noticed that the Sfiras are Teyu Toikef Hayesh. Now we're going to see that this idea of Toikef is very important. Toikef, like a starkheid. Koch in Yeshes. Vaisnases, Yisnases means self-elevation. Varimim is Yeseda. An extra, a very special type of Ramimus. So, because we're going to see that there can be a Ramimus which is Mami's. I mean, that's like the key to what we're going to read. That there can be a Ramimus which is not Mitzad Ishnasis. It's a Ramimus immediately. It says, Shoya b'chol sfira, ad shasfira zul also, lo yotefes mokim kla. Absolutely. Botel, liyesh neisen la mokim gamkim. In other words, that if it would have been tefes mokim a little bit, he would have given it a place. Well, it's not tefes mokim. He doesn't give it any place. We're going to see in a minute, but that's maybe not so possible, because if something's mummy doesn't have any place by you, absolutely, then was out there to give it a place. Well, I'm talking about the beetle, it's bottle. Ukemai Sfiras HaChesed hoya b'kitz ha'reimamas b'yoisa. Says the Rebbe, shezeh inyan shehoya b'chinas malucha. In other words, if immediately you talk about Chesed, as you get rid of the Malucha. I mean, Chesed is not a kingship. You much the Chesed for a kingship. So he said the kingship in Chesed is the Reimamas B'yoisa. In other words, the Indian in Chesed of this Teikef Hayeshes, this Koch in the Indian of my Matthias, whatever it is. So the Rebbe said that's what we call Malucha here. That's what we're calling Malucha. Because otherwise we couldn't chesed to Malchus. And he said, the Rak Ano Emlech. In other words, what is a Em as a king, like we saw? He says, Rak Ano Emlech. There's no two kings. That's what the whole shaila is. Eich David Nosen Mokem L'Shleimek. Erefa, says the Rebbe, the ganze Amitis Inyan, we're talking about here, Vrimim as Yeseda in Malchus, it says, Rak Ano Emlech. Rak Ano Emlech. And that's the Malchus in a sphere like Chesed. In other words, she said, Ani v'afsi, only my Inyan, ain't Inyan a klal. And that's called Inyan for Malchus. Now we don't mean here what's Mavur, becoming Mekemus and Chesed, Malchus Shebachesed, a Malchus Shebachesed, the Koch HaGilui. Shebachol Sfira. That's another in Malchus. Here we mean that Toikev of Rakano. And that's a Indian and a king which also, just purely with the techniques of a king, that's how he is. Rakano. Anyway, that's what we mean here by the Malchus in Chesed. Not Malchus Shebachesed, or Bechesed, how she's a Malchus. The whole Chesed is a Malchus.
So, Yotzei Mizeh that Tohu never existed.
Oh, yes, it does.
Because if it couldn't, so that it couldn't get together for even
yeah. I see what you mean. In other words, it cured. It never happened. It broke before it happened. Yes. Well, we have to say that Robadukah, because it's written over there in the pasuk, Vayim Leiva. There was some tears. So we have to say that Einachanami. I understand what you're asking. What you're asking is a cue, ikra de dinner kopilcha. I think it was right from the beginning, the whole thing never started, okay. Not bad, not bad. I understand your line of thinking, but there's a little bidukach. It isn't and isn't. In other words, that the Eibishter, for sure, he let the spirits of Teyu come about and he let the spirit happen. Tell me who that the whole thing happened. Come on. And that's what we say so manas livnais. I heard there was some story about a choshev that they clapped him. Where was it? Somewhere. There was some Hungarians or something. They were trying to stop Machalal Shabbos. He was a choshev, a big fellow. And some of these friars that were big Machalal Shabbos came out and they tried to attack him. He just picked them up like stones and he threw them on the ground. One on top of the other. So the police came and got him. And it was Friday because they were being, they were complaining against Chilul Shabbos. They won on Friday. And the police came and they arrested him. They put him in a sort of a jail, like a lockup sort of a place. And he broke down the wall. He was such a giver. It was like a temporary place, like Shimshon a giver. That he just he broke down the wall and he got out. So it was a whole thing. Later the police came after him and a whole mass and a whole geschäft. He got himself out of it after all. He hid himself as a idiot. And a few other people got broken bones that they tried to get at him. He was a giver, a meeting. All of a sudden he shows up one day by the Rov in secret. He comes into the Rov and he said, listen here, Rov, he said, I got to have a tikkun. He said, you have to help me. He said, I was Machal Shabbos, broke a wall on Shabbos. He said, I broke a wall on Shabbos. He said, he said, I say so obedient with Shabbos. Anyway, just trying to tell a joke to get you guys smiles or something. So we see that there's a Indian from Seiser Almanas Livna. Seiser Almanas Livna. And my mother says the Rebbe, I come to this that, I'm sorry, we're back with your Shaila. So, the whole thing was, the whole Indian was Livnais Almanas Liste. In this particular Livnais Almanas Liste, the Kavanah was to break it. It was built. And even more than that, what do you say to me? Not Tiva. The whole meaning from Bechira is something that nobody ever understands. The Alter Rebbe says in Pasha Moya, and look at the Alter Rebbe says, Mamshim Atzmas. The Alter Rebbe throws it back into the Atzmas. He says, Nicht the Atzmas. You can't possibly understand Bechira. But don't come to that the whole Indian, on the way down, the Eibishter gave a place that eventually you would have Bechira. He made a world that was in his knowledge and his. That's the same old kasha. Everything was in his knowledge. Nonetheless, it's not a stira. Yeah. And the Eibishter made it that it actually happened. I know that there were spheres. They insisted that it must be because they blew. So you might say, well, maybe they didn't know. Maybe the spheres of Gonish Nigawud. Only that. I'm Yadu Raksa. Look. You remember the story I told you of Noah was at a Tif Hinavainik, deep inside the train. There's this little horse that carries the train, you know what I mean? So deep inside the spheres of two, they knew ganz good was. They knew what was there. They knew. Just like the Bnei Aaron knew. Mato Tzeligidli. None of you didn't know what was. And who Klau was it to come on? Them scoilers. They knew, but it was just so immense. That chukka, that lakus, was just so much they could. And yet it's called a chay. The same thing with the spirits too. The same thing. They knew, and the Eibishter gave them, and yet, and that was mitzad. We're going to see that they had reimamas, but you got to know how to take your remembrance, and you got to know what is remembrance and how to take it. Oh, that's like the beginning of the whole Bechira. The whole Indian from the Shvili and Toyu is a tremendously key Indian in the whole Kabbalah Arizal. Big thing. I mean, this is about the second time it's been mentioned here. Well, this time Barifat in the Semcha, and in Ayin Beis and in Ayin Gimel, you'll find it again and again. It comes up every now and then. Sfiras Tateu. That's one of the essential messages for the Arizal. That's one of the Ludas Rabbi Sein and the Siyim. That's one of the essential messages. Okay, so Ever said the Rebbe, and my man, where are we? The Rak Ano, Roya Sfiras Agur, Tavis Mokim, Litin Lo Gamkim Mokim Limli. Oites, Shaloya Yochel Lisboa, Sfiras Agur. Now notice, Oites, this is a further thing. Pisha here, Eifach Mohusala, Gamre. In other words, he's not allowed to put up with the Indian from Sfiras Agura because it's Heipach Mahusar Lagamri. Now, the Ashake Alkain is Ma, Heipach Mahusi, I can't be saved with it. So that was a cause who mitzada yeshes chulu. Or midas tetikun, upchins a beetle, leipchins is nases. But later we're going to see that that's emesis nases. Vainu shegam amida aofrias tifus mokim, listen like gamkein mokim. There's tifus mokim, to give it also a mokim. Gam yesh beim a beetle vach nur lisachid or lischaber im amida aofrios. I want to hurry a little bit here. I want to leave you guys, I'm cruel. I want to leave you with a kasha. And now that I was going to say, be Indian, now that I was going to say, it's not verstandig. Now, to the end of this whole chapter, we're going to be Isaac now on this kasha. And then we said, it's not verstandig. Why do you say two Inyanim? Loi Neisen Mokim and Ena Yochel Lisboa. I can imagine Pik Verkehr. The text, there's no place by me. Yeah? A Pik Verkehr. Neisen Mokim. It's bottled by me, but that is a bit who's out me. And Adrabah. Yeah, Lechera is a groiskeit of Mishaloi. Yeah? He sees that the thing has no Mokim Klau, no adequate to pieces Mokim Klau. On the contrary, let it be. It's not going to in any way bevalbel me, and it's not going to be bevalbel any emes. On the contrary, let it serve its part in the emes. Help it along, give it play. And that's what we find. That emes Gedula does do that. So there was a little bit, why do you keep saying to me, no, that in Torah there was Eina Neisen Mokim and Eina Yochel Lisboa, was it?
Eina Neisen Mokim, it means you say Yeshua Mokim.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Baricha. That's what I'm trying to say. He says, I don't know, why shouldn't it be? Let it be. And Fakir, we're going to see that Lechera Emes, a grace of mensch, he lets everything have a certain place. Yeah. So why do we say that? No, the Darki the Indian from Rimus and Gadlus Amiti has said that doesn't have any mokim. V'yalkein any yochel boiled. Why would that be? Why would those two things go together? They should be seisel on him, or al chaponim. They don't go together. And that's a kasha what the Rebbe has. And he's going to start a whole teretz until the end of the chapter. That he's going to strengthen the kasha 50 times over. The way you got emes or then everything has a place. On the contrary. And so we're going to come to a sort of a picture that's going to lead us into a whole new musik. The two different types of reimah. So there's a reimah which once it says that something has no place, it's shrill the v'tzir for the thing. And there's another reimah which b'diuk hafuch is mekarot there. So we'll see about that in a minute.
if you look at Teva B'nai Adam, the people that a person can't stand, can't tolerate, is normally the person who is like him.
Yankim?
A person I can't tolerate is someone who is exactly like me.
Right.
Not someone who is the very opposite of me. It's someone who is the exact opposite of him. Not really.
Yeah, well, you say it depends.
Lots of us might actually. Not really.
Yeah, he's another Maslul.
Families, people who are very, very similar.
Yeah. They were talking about people that, usually Havana or Yachas Erki Zelazeh. He was talking about a Raymond, which is English and Mokim Cloud to other things and to other entities. The Rebbe's point is that Dafki, because nothing has any error. What's the idea? Let it have a place. You can give what's called and that's what he uses the expression in the Hemshech of the Kasha. He says miktasar. You can give it a little miktasar. It doesn't really have any emissary, but you can let it be and let it on the contrary. Bring it in. Make it take part in the game, as they say. That's what we're aiming at. Well, your shaila is even when there's a certain yachas between the people. Yeah, as long as he's in another maslu, he doesn't bother me. Or somebody who's marish like me, then I got to watch him. That's already in another yachas. Over here, it's a yachas of beetle amiti. That beetle amiti allows everything to have a place. Why do we say that the Eden to you is in Azar, even that it was Ein Asayu? That if I say it doesn't have any place for me, Arop. Bonasham can play. So I was going to say, it has the famous expression, it's krikt of Amalek. It's a little weeny worm somewhere in the rainbow. Something's not right with the rainbow. Who was it that said about krikt of Amalek? Was it the Maggid or something? Not sure how did it go. You remember what was his name? The one that told me the Maggid that he went a bit funny and became a
what?
He became a shikha. No, the whole thing. Remember? And there's different. Yeah, there's different girsayas as to whether he really dropped off the kavanah or whether he didn't.
Volker.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it was the Volker. Yeah. It's they say that they went to ask the Maggid or they asked the Alter, and he said it's krikt of Amalek. He used the expression as krikt of Amalek. But just to make it a little complex, is that after he was nifta, when he went away from somebody, he left a bag by. They found in the bag, they found soy, the turtles with the Maggid. Yeah. The whole thing to myself. Anyway, suffice it to say that that's severe. Or Rav Nochum's skills would be, deep inside is a klein feather. deep inside. Good. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Don't go together.
Well, does he want to make my
He was I forgot to ask the bochum. I was so busy and I just forgot to ask the bochum.
It would be a surprise if
So then are we in here?
No, because some people also got.
Somebody already done.
If we go to 7, if we go to basement,
Sorry.